Hey folks, in this episode I'm going to show you how to make this sound reactive geometry nodes audio visualizer. As you can see, it looks pretty cool. I'll just give you a quick concept overview. So this is the 3D scene here. Essentially, it's just a curved circle and the beams are coming from the compositor. This is the node structure here. These two object infos is what contains the audio data. We then feed that into a noise texture. It then deforms this curved circle. I'll just select a random frame, I'll hit play, and as you can see, this plays back in real time. Excellent. Without further ado, let's get to it. So, open up Blender. I'm going to be using the Node Wrangler for this tutorial. If you don't know how to install that, I'll leave a link to a video where I'll show you how. And with the default cube selected, I'm going to change my shader editor to the geometry node editor. I'll then click new, and I'll rename the geometry nodes to level up. I'm going to take the group input, I'm going to hit delete, I'll hit Shift A and search for curved circle, and we'll pop that there. I'll then connect the curve socket into the geometry socket of the group output. In my 3D viewport, I'm going to hit numpad 7, numpad period, and that will align the view to the selected object. I'll then hit Control Alt numpad 0, and that will align the camera to the view. I'll just select my camera, I'll navigate to my object data tab over here. I'm going to ensure that the X and Y location is set to 0, and maybe I'll set my Z location to 8. I'll now select my geometry nodes cube object, which is actually a circle. In fact, let's go to my outliner and I'll rename this to Join Me on Patreon. We need to give this curved circle some thickness, so I'm just going to increase my geometry node window over here. I'll then hit Shift A and we'll search for curve to mesh, and I'll pop that in between there. I'll then take this curved circle node, I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate, and I'll pop this over here. I'll connect the curve socket into the profile curve on the curve to mesh. I'll then reduce the radius on this curved circle to 0.025. And for the first curved circle node, I'm going to increase the radius to 2 meters. I'll also increase the resolution to 256. For this to deform with a higher resolution, I'll hit Shift A and I'll search for resample curve, and we'll pop that in between there. I'll increase the count to 4096. Next up, let's build a system to deform this curved circle. I'll hit Shift A and we'll search for set position, and I'll pop that in between the resample curve and the curve to mesh node. We can now drive this offset using a noise texture. I'll hit Shift A and search for noise texture, and we'll pop that over here. I'm going to change it from 3D to 4D. I'll reduce the scale to 0.5. I'm going to set the detail to 8. I'll decrease the roughness to 0.25. I'll connect the color socket from the noise texture into the offset socket of the set position node. And as you can see, we're getting some deformation there, but everything has shifted by 0.5 on the vectors. So to combat that, I'll hit Shift A and we'll search for vector math, and I'll pop that in between there. I'll then change it from add to subtract, and we'll subtract it on X, Y, and Z by 0.5. And now it should be recentered. I'll then take the vector math, I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate, and I'll pop that in between there. I'll then change it from subtract to scale. And now, with the scale value, we can change the magnitude of the effect. So the idea behind this is we're going to be controlling the W factor, the roughness, and the distortion using the audio data. So let's add the audio data now. So I'm going to take my cursor to the top left of the geometry node window until I see a crosshair. Or left click and drag down and open up a new window. I'll then change this from geometry nodes to the graph editor. In my 3D viewport, I'm going to hit Shift A, we'll go empty, and I'll add a plane axis. In the outliner, I'm going to rename the empty object to audio multiply. I'll then hit Shift D, I'll escape it back in its original location. I'll then navigate to my outliner, and I'm going to rename this empty object to audio add with my timeline set to frame 1, and I'll select the audio add object. I'll add a keyframe on the Z location transform set to 0. I'll then select the audio multiply empty object, and I'll add a keyframe on the Z location transform set to 0. With your audio multiply empty object selected, I'm going to go to my graph editor. I'll expand the audio multiply action. I'll expand the object transform, select the Z location keyframe. We'll then go to channel and select sound to samples. I'm going to be using my own track for this. If you don't have any music on your computer, I'll leave a link to this drum loop sample pack where you can download any of these beats for free. I'm going to be using this scuffle track, which is my own drum and bass track. I'm going to keep the lowest frequency and highest frequencies set to default. I'll then click sound to samples. In the graph editor, I'm going to go to my modifiers. I'll then select add modifier, and I'll choose smooth Gaussian. I'm going to set the sigma to 1 and the filter width to 3. And this will just smooth out the animation of the empty object. I'll then navigate to my outliner and I'll select audio add. I'll go to my graph editor. I'll expand the audio add action. I'll expand the audio transform and select the Z location keyframe. I'll then go to channel and we'll select sound to samples. Navigate and select your audio track. Again, I'm going to keep the lowest frequency and highest frequency range set to default, but this time I'm going to enable accumulate. I'll then click sound to samples. And because I enabled accumulate, you can see that the graph is accumulating and adding over time. I'll then click add modifier. I'm going to go smooth Gaussian. I'll set the sigma to 0.25 and I'll set the filter width to 3. I'll then change the graph editor to the video sequencer. I'll then click this icon here and I'll select scene. I'll then hit Shift A. I'll select sound, navigate and select your audio track and then click add sound to strip. I'll just drag this across all the way to channel 1, all the way to the beginning. Now if I zoom out, I'll then go to the end of the strip and that takes me to frame 8310. So in my end frame, I'm going to type in 8310. I'll then take my cursor to the bottom left of the 3D viewport until I see a crosshair. I'll left click and drag down and collapse that window. And now, if I hit play, you should see that the empty objects are moving with the audio. In my 3D viewport, I'm going to hit numpad 0 to go into camera view. In fact, maybe I can select my camera. I'm going to go to my camera data tab over here, and I'm going to reduce the focal length to 24mm. I'll then select my geometry node object. So now we just need to bring in that audio data into geometry nodes. That's easy enough. So I'll navigate to my outliner and I'll drag this audio multiply object into the geometry nodes window, and I'll do the same for the audio add. After the audio multiply object info node, I'm going to hit Shift A and search for separate XYZ, and I'll pop that there. I'll then connect the location socket into the vector socket of the separate XYZ. I'll just box select these nodes. I'll just hit G, bring these across. I'll then hit Shift A and search for math, and we'll add a math node here. I'll then connect the Z socket from the separate XYZ into the top socket of the math node, and I'll change the math node from add to multiply. I'll then connect the value socket from the multiply node into the roughness socket and the distortion socket of the noise texture node. I'll set the multiply value to 1. I'll then take that multiply node. I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate, and I'll pop this over here. I'll then connect the Z socket from the separate XYZ into the top socket of the multiply node. I'm going to set this value to 10. I'll then connect this into the scale socket of the scale vector node. And now if I select a random frame and hit play, you can see that we're getting deformation. The next thing is we want to change this W factor so the shape is continuously morphing. And if you remember, when we baked the audio data for the audio add, we enabled accumulate, which means it accumulates over time. And that's perfect for driving this W factor because this accumulates over time. So I'm going to box select this separate XYZ and this multiply node. I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate, and I'll bring this down to here. I'll then connect the location socket from the audio add into the vector of the separate XYZ. I'll then increase the value on this multiply node to 10. I'll now connect this value socket into the W factor of the noise texture node. And if I hit play, you should see that it's morphing as well as distorting. We've now got the base system for the distortion and displacement, so we just need to translate that data so we can use it in the shader editor. To do that, I'm going to take this curve circle node. I'm going to hit G just to give us a bit of room. I'll then hit Shift A and search for capture attribute, and we'll pop that there. I'll then hit Shift D to duplicate, and I'll pop this here. The two attributes I want to capture will be the length of this spline as well as the factor of the spline. Lucky for us, we've got a node for that, so I hit Shift A and search for spline parameter, and I'll pop that there. I'll then connect the factor socket into the first capture attribute node and the length socket into the second capture attribute node. We need to store those attributes so we can call them up in the shader editor. So over here, after the curve to mesh, I'll hit Shift A and search for store named attribute, and we'll pop that there. I'll hit Shift D to duplicate, and I'll pop that there. I'll hit Shift D one more time to duplicate, and I'll pop that there. We'll now give these attributes names. So for this first one, I'm going to name this factor. For this second attribute, I'm going to name this to length, and for the third attribute, I'm going to rename this to hue. So you can see that this first capture attribute is capturing the factor. So I'm going to connect this factor into the value socket of the factor store named attribute. This second one is capturing the length. So I'm going to connect this length socket into the value socket of the length store named attribute. And finally, for this last store named attribute, I'm actually going to be using the audio add Z value. So I'm going to be connecting the Z socket from the separate XYZ into the value socket of the store named attribute, and that comes from the audio add object. I'll hold down shift, right click and drag, and that will create a reroute node. I'll just hit G and I'll bring this down to here. That's just so we can see where it's going. We just need 2 more nodes, but before I do that, I'm going to go to my material tab over here and just ensure that your object has got a material. I'm going to rename mine to Stay Sharp. I'll then hit Shift A and search for Set Material, and we'll pop that in between there. And the material I'm going to use will be that Stay Sharp material. I'll then hit Shift A and search for Set Shade Smooth, and I'll pop that in between there. This is the final geometry node tree here. I'm going to change this window from geometry nodes to the shader editor. Before we continue, it's a good idea to save your project. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to save my project as Like and Subscribe. Thanks folks, you absolute legends. And then click Save As. In the shader editor, we need to call up those attributes. So we'll hit Shift A and search for Attribute, and we'll pop that there. We'll then hit Shift D to duplicate, Shift D to duplicate one more time, so we've got these 3 attributes. I'll navigate to the top left of my shader editor until I see a crosshair. I'll left click and drag across and open up a new window. I'll then change this window from the shader editor to the geometry node editor. Navigate to your store named attribute nodes, and under the store named attribute named factor, I'm going to hover my cursor over that factor. I'm going to hit Ctrl C to copy. I'll then go to my shader editor and I'll hit Ctrl V under this attribute node here. I'll then do the same for the length. I'm going to hit Ctrl C to copy. I'll then paste that into this attribute node, Ctrl V. I'll do the same for this hue, Ctrl C and Ctrl V. I'm going to take the principal BSDF. I'm going to hit delete. I'm going to hit Shift A and search for emission, and I'll pop that there. I'm going to connect the emission socket into the surface socket, the material output. I'll then hit Shift A and search for color ramp, and I'll pop that there. On the color ramp, I'm going to click the plus button to add a flag, and for this first flag, I'm going to set this to a pink color. For this middle flag, I'm going to set this to blue, and for this last flag, I'm going to set this to light blue. I'm going to change the interpolation type from linear to ease. I'll select this dark blue flag, and I'm going to change the position to 0.25. I'll then select the light blue flag, and I'll change the position to around about 0.6. I'm going to go to my render tab over here. I'm going to change it from cycles to EV. I'll expand the ray tracing options. I'm going to set the resolution to 1/1 and the screen tracing precision to 1. I'll then navigate to the world tab over here, and I'll change the strength to 0. I'll just toggle into rendered view. I'll connect the color socket from the color ramp into the color socket of the emission node. I'm going to set the strength of the emission to 2.5. I'll then connect the factor socket from the factor attribute into the factor socket of the color ramp, and that gives us this gradient effect here. In fact, I'm going to drag the light blue flag all the way across over to here, and maybe I'll set this flag to 0.5. And that will give us more of an even distribution of colour. I'll then hit Shift A and I'll search for hue saturation value, and I'll pop that there. I'm going to change the hue to 0, and that will shift the colours around the colour wheel. So I'll hit Shift D to duplicate, and I'll pop that in between there, and that should reset it back to its original state. I'll then hit Shift A and search for separate XYZ, and I'll pop that there. Shift A and search for math, and we'll pop that there. I'll then change it from add to multiply. I'll connect the factor socket from the length attribute into the vector socket of the separate XYZ. I'll then connect the Z socket from the separate XYZ into the top value socket of the multiply node. I'll then connect the value from the multiply into the hue socket of the hue saturation value node. I'm going to change the value of the multiply node to 0.1. I'm going to box select this separate XYZ and the multiply node. I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate, and I'll pop this up here. I'll then connect the factor socket from the hue attribute into the vector of the separate XYZ. And finally, I'll connect this value socket from the multiply node into the hue socket of the hue saturation value node. I'm going to change the value to 1. I'll then select a random frame on my timeline. I'll hit F12 to render out a test frame. I'll hit Escape to close that window. I'll then navigate to my Compositing tab up here. I'm going to click New. I'll just select the render layers. I'm going to hit G, gives a bit more room. I'll hit Shift A. I'm going to go Filter, and we'll choose Glare, and I'll pop that in between there. I'm going to change it from Streaks to Bloom. I'm going to expand the highlights. I'm going to decrease the threshold to 0.5. I'll then hit Shift A. I'll go Color, and we'll choose Mix Color, and I'll pop that in between there. I'm going to connect the image socket from the render layers into the bottom socket of the Mix Color node. I'm going to take this Glare node. I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate, and I'll pop that in between there. I'll change it from Bloom to Sunbeams. I'll then connect the glare socket into socket B of the mix color node. Just bring this across over to here, give us a bit more room. I'll then change the mix color node from mix to add. And with the glare node selected, I'm going to hit Ctrl-Shift-D, and that will duplicate the node whilst maintaining the connection to the previous node. I'll then connect this glare socket into socket B of this mixed color node. I'll just box select these nodes here. I'm going to hit G, gives a bit of room. I'll then hit Shift-A and search for blur, and we'll pop that in between there. I'm going to change it from Gaussian to fast Gaussian, and I'm going to blur the X and Y values to 25. So now we just need to combine both of these sunbeams together. So I'm going to hold down Control, right click and drag, and that will disconnect that noodle. I'll then connect the glare socket from the first sunbeams node into socket B. I'm going to take this mixed color node, I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate, and I'll pop this in between here. I'll then connect this socket from the blur node into socket B. And now with this factor, we can control how much blur the sunbeams have. So I'm going to set this to 1. And on this mixed color node, we can control the strength of the sunbeams. So I'm going to set mine to 1. I'll navigate to my layout view. I'm going to select my camera. I'll then go to my viewport render settings up here. I'm going to click this arrow here, and I'm going to enable the compositor for the camera. Maybe I'll just disable overlays. I'm going to select my camera. I'll then navigate to my object data tab over here, and I'm going to increase the Z location height to, let's say, 10 meters. I'm going to toggle on material preview. I'll click this icon up here, and I'll enable scene lights and scene world. I'll then hit Ctrl S, and that will save the project with this thumbnail. I'll navigate to my output settings over here, go to output and click this folder down here, select a file location where you want to save your project, and then click accept. Select a file format of your choice, PNG set to RGB at 8-bit should be absolutely fine, but for me I'm going to go with a file format of OpenEXR with a codec of DWAA lossy, and that will reduce my file size whilst increasing dynamic range for post-production. Hit Ctrl S to save your project, and then it's simply a case of hitting Ctrl F12, and that will render out your image sequence. You'd then open that image sequence into a video editor of your choice. I use DaVinci Resolve, import your audio to overlay over the video, and then render it out as an MPEG-4. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to dive deeper, click this next tutorial. Stay sharp, have a great day, and level up.